Alright, so here you can see me running my DM screen program. The name is still pending. You download the zip file and then you pull out this .jar file and you double click it to run it and it should bring up this. If you have issues with that, you might need to get NetBeans JDE environment and download that, and you can contact me or look at my blog to see the resources for that. And the basics of this is that you never really want to waste your precious adventuring time, the time you have with friends, the time when you can coordinate everyone's schedule and get together and run a campaign. You don't want to spend that time leafing through pages. You don't want to waste it looking at tables and rolling dice to generate things that you could generate with a button click. And just like that, you have a location and you have something happening there. Now these go all over the place. They are coordinated around levels, the number of players, indoors versus outdoors. But you can be prepared for just about everything. Now the basics of it are, this adventuring tab has your encounters, which is going to roll for every type of encounter based on the Gygax method, which is going to give you empty rooms, monsters, monster with treasure, treasures, traps, specials, tricks, and what have you. And you can see that my treasures come out as in different containers, and then subcategories in there which lists the value in gold pieces right next to it, and that's split amongst a whole number of different item generation methods. Your monsters are going to give a more generic monster generation method, and that's something I'm still working on the exact kinks of getting it a more specific monster method so that you can be even better prepared. But it's going to give you your general type of monster, your level relative to the levels down here, and it's going to give you kind of their morale, their purpose, some basic information about them so that you can work and come up with something around that skeleton of an idea. And then it's going to give you a little bit of junk that they might have in their pockets or might be in the trash around their lair. The idea of this encounters in general are going to be that there's something you can use to help you build dungeons, or on the last minute something comes up, you can throw these out there and it can give you at least a skeleton of an interesting encounter that you can run. And that's going to give tricks, it's going to give you traps, and my traps include some different warning signs that you can mention in the description of the room that the players can investigate to maybe help them mitigate the damage of the trap or the hazard, or to notice ahead of time. The special encounters are things that are going to be your unique encounters, your encounter with a demigod or some weird merchant or some other weird things that don't fit quite well in other categories. And right now that's just a generic table of results, and that's also something I'm working on for future editions. And then if you just need a room, they come into this random cave and you just need a room. This one would tell you it's a glacier and the weather outside is intensifying. And that the way that they might notice that is that leaves on the trees or the pine needles have shifted and changed. And if you run that indoors, it's going to give you an indoor room rather than, say, some small cave versus a courtroom. Now, if you go to this next tab, the NPC tab is going to give you that reaction that I was rolling for monsters, and that's going to give you kind of their basic. It rolls a 2d6 and generates a reaction around that. And if your players have anything that might influence that, whether they smell really terrible or maybe they have a magic potion buff, then you can modify that as needed. The morale is going to be a similar thing. It's going to tell you how likely they are to fight or flee. What they're looking for is going to be their problems, so you can roll this for either just a generic fetch quest. The NPC might ask you to protect some group, or they might ask you to protect animals, or maybe investigate a person leaving no trace. Rumor is going to be just a generic table of rumors. In the future versions, I'm going to have this be customizable so you can fit this in with rumors from your campaign rather than just the generic ones I have in here. And as you can see, when there's a large result, this does fill out. And there are things like this where I'm still trying to catch every place where it doesn't have a perfectly readable text right out of the gate, like it doesn't capitalize, it doesn't have the right punctuation. So if you can point out any of those to me, that's very helpful. It really helped me improve for the next version. And then obtuse is, hey, why is this NPC being a huge jerk and not helping out? This is something that I ran into because sometimes I just need reasons why this NPC is not going to do a bunch of stuff for my players. And I want something that's a little bit less arbitrary than me just saying, oh, they don't want to help. Well, you know, here, this NPC is really just missing this, the love of their life, and they feel really bad about stuff because they missed out on something and they really want that, and they're distracted from everything else. And then this other button is going to give you whatever you select down on this drop-down tab. And these are stuff that I don't see as often. I like to keep just a quick reference list of names, so I don't even have to hit a button. But that's something you can pull out here. So you can have streets, you can have NPC point of interest. You know, oh, this one's deadly terrified of shadows, so he'll only meet your players in some place where it's well lit. They don't have to worry about anything like that. Now, if you go to this miscellaneous tab, this has stuff like mutations, and this is something I'm continually adding to. So these are going to be things that will happen when your players mess with tricks or get a hold of some bad potions or whatever might come into play. Carousing is something that I've put in my games for when the players have some downtime and they want to spend gold to get experience. And these are just general results you might see for that. Junk is going to give you just that junk I was talking about before with the monsters. And then the next two tabs, magic item and non-magic items, are going to select from these two drop-down tabs, whichever one you select. And it's going to use the wealth by level that is on another tab to generate some sort of item around their expected treasure value. And I have everything from magic arms and armor down to skills, spells, and special things like, you know, a one-time magical bonus, or monster carcasses, or, you know, baby monsters that the players might find. And then these non-magic items are going to be everything from non-magical arms and armor to random items, utensils, you know, furniture that might be treasure or worth something. You know, maybe they want to decorate their keep and they, you know, find this furniture in these dungeons. And that's going to be in that non-magical item. Descriptor is going to give you a general description of the room. It's going to give you things like decorations or natural features or just something in the room so that it can kind of set the scene for the room when you tie it with the actual room name. So, you know, you might have a throne room where you feel like the first person here in many millennia. Well, that's going to tell you it's very dusty, it's very dank or musty or really stuffy air. It's going to set the scene for that room rather than just a throne room. Quality is going to give you something, it's going to give you some tags around a blank item that you can fill in on your own. And that's going to tell you kind of some basic ideas of, oh, well, this thing's small, it's pristine, it's well made, and you can use this to kind of whatever you want to grab off that description to describe something that they picked up. So let's say they win some item in a carnival game. Well, what is it like? Oh, it's this tiny, good, like crazy good iron something or other. And you don't have to use every item on every part of that list, but it is useful. Now say oh shoot, I clicked a bunch of times here. You can go back to the history tab and you can look at literally everything you have pulled up since you've opened this program. And now for the final tab, it's going to be this customization tab, and this is going to tell you, this is going to input into the program what your expected wealth increase per level is per player. So this is going to say, okay, they're expecting to get 150 gold pieces by the time they hit level 2. And I expect about 10 encounters with an average about half of those having a treasure hoard. And those treasure hoards are going to have some variance in them. Some are going to be small, some are going to be, you know, maybe up to like 50% of their wealth by level. And that's all random, but it averages out so that it works out that they should, on average, get their wealth by level for each player spread out over those encounters. Now if you're expecting less treasure, you want to play a low magic game, then you would modify that treasure hoard value right here. You'd put maybe a 0.5, you know, 50%, 0.2, 20% of the treasure, or maybe you want high magic, but twice as much or 2. Custom gold is going to tell you, put in a custom value for the gold you might want for a magic item generator. And then level and players are always available, and that's going to tell you how many players are in there, and it'll modify the horde size. Alright, well that's the explanation for the DM screen. If you have any comments, bugs, or requests, email me down at the form down here. Thank you.